Okay, I just stopped the little pre-stream bit and I am waiting for the confirmation that I'm back live again. Okay, so I'll wait till folks, I think I might be back again. Let's see. I'll wait for folks to confirm it, and until then, I'm gonna enjoy my coffee. So am I think I'm going again. So um cool. Thanks Tyreek. So real quick, hi, I'm Joshua. Today is October 30th. Yeah, not quite Halloween, or is it? I forget. 2016. Today I'm working on a game called Delver. For those of you who might not know, Delver is a an independently created fantasy first-person roguelike dungeon crawler thing. Um, that's a mouthful. It is a passion project of mine. There are two of us working on it, and we've been working on it for 3 or 4 years now. So I do these. So you're watching my regular Sunday stream. I do this every Sunday at 12 noon Pacific, and I do these streams regularly to make sure that I make good constant progress, but also to talk to the community and keep them updated. So Tyreek, so 4-Bit Friday is actually working on a game called Catacomb Kids, which is amazing. If you haven't heard of that, go check it out. Let me just plug that real quick because it's awesome. Yeah. It's beautiful and it's roguelikey and it's a platformer and it has like really cool systems that interact. And I love Catacomb Kids. Um, but yeah, um, so for me, working on Delver, so Tyreek was asking how it's going, and it's been better. So last year I took mostly off to help my wife support her because we were having our first child, and it was a tough pregnancy. But luckily everybody's okay, and I have a beautiful son. And as of this July, I've been pretty regular about every Sunday streaming, and we've been getting back into a more normal development cadence. Um, So I guess kind of going off of that, one of the first things I do is I talk about what happened last week because it's important to kind of reflect on our progress. So let's look at our Git repository. Okay. Actually, I have so I usually do a Git log here. Um, Thanks, Tyreek. Yeah, being a father is really cool. It's totally crazy and life changing, but I wouldn't trade it out. So for the Git, so I'm gonna do a Git log with some pretty printing here. So I usually do this so it's easier to view. So it looks like in the last week, looks like Chad has tweaked the ice wand a bit, and we were playing around with some more of the modifier system for the weapons. So now our weapons have a pretty standard RPG like modifier system where you get like a +1 magic or +5 speed, whatever, and we kind of color code it like that. Um, the changes might not be a lot because mostly I've been working in fixed archery. So if I do the same thing over here, um, in fixed archery, I've been working on making because I've seen a lot of feedback about the game where the bow and arrow really didn't work well, and I had to agree that it wasn't. It could be better. So I kind of just decided to take it upon myself to make it better. And for those of you who do know, currently I'm a stay-at-home father, but before that, I have been a software engineer for, I don't know, six or so years now. So I decided to actually look at the code because primarily I'm the art guy for Delver, and Chad does all the programming. But I decided to look at some of the programming, and I've been working on improving archery. So I guess I'll just kind of cover. Let me cover the changes, and I'll preview them so you guys know what's going on. So I basically bows now have so they honor all the systems they should. So bows now, they honor knockback. They honor any enchantments on them. They honor those. Also, there are new bows now. There are 5 bows. There is a new stat. The bows have a range stat, which some bows shoot shorter, some bows shoot farther. Um, I'm also, this change is kind of controversial. I'm kind of uh, curious to see what folks think about it. But um, when I was testing the archery stuff, I noticed that I never got any archery loot drops. And I dug into the code a little bit, and basically turned out that there was only ever a 6% chance of dropping bows or arrows. So basically, you had a 3% chance of getting a bow and a 3% chance of getting arrows, which is not really great if you actually want to play a ranged character. So what I did is I went through and I kind of tweaked how we do loot drops. So um, basically now for each character stat, there is a type of loot associated with it. So for attack, that is associated with melee. For defense, that's associated with armor. Magic for magic, and agility for ranged. So when you first start off, because all your stats are the same, everything has an equal chance of dropping. And as you invest stats into your character, that changes the ratio of the loot drops. So the more, say, magic you plug into your character, the more magic drops you'll get, but the less of everything else you'll get. So hopefully, I think this is an interesting system, and it kind of balances out like, because it used to be that the dominant strategy was to always take health whenever you had a chance. But now, if you always take health, pretty soon you find that the majority of your loot drops are just food, and that isn't particularly useful. So hopefully this kind of balances that out a little bit. The thing I'm worried about right now is it's kind of a hidden system. We're not really broadcasting because I mean I've just implemented it and it's not even actually into the main development branch yet. But I'm curious to see what folks think about it. Because but I did this mostly because also let me see. So yeah, so the monsters use the way to loot drops. Yep, it's arrow effect. So the arrow, if it's a magic arrow, will have little magic puffs, and now those also puff when you bounce stuff off walls. Um, and this is me. So this right here is me kind of going back through because after I had all my changes ready, I wanted to merge them back into the main development branch. So I had to kind of resolve some merge issues, and that's me just cleaning those merge issues up. So let me go ahead and just fire up the game. I'll play a little bit, talk about some of the archery changes, and we'll see where we go from there. Yeah, so thanks, Tyreek. Tyreek says that sounds like an interesting way of doing things. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way to let, so if characters want to play as a particular archetype, it kind of reinforces that. But if they go too overboard on that archetype, then it makes it difficult because they no longer have some of the like the armor or the health or what other like secondary things to their archetype they need. So let me just drop in so a short bow and some arrows. There we go. So now I've tweaked the animation a little bit too, so it looks a little different. So it actually looks more like a draw. It's still the handedness is a little weird, but I'm kind of favoring like a graphic representation rather than a realistic representation. But now with arrows, you can shoot them and they stick into walls, which is pretty cool. If you shoot them at an angle, they will bounce. So that one's stuck over here, which is cool. Different bows have different draw speeds. So if I spawn in a normal bow, they also have different art now too. Before they did not. This has a slower draw speed, but it has higher damage and has a greater range. But I think I'll go ahead and just play a little bit and see how well it works. Makilo23 says hello. Hello, Makilo. Thank you for stopping by. I'm starting to recognize some folks who are fairly regular. So nothing's changed. Well, actually, if you haven't noticed, we have added a slight shake to breakables. So when you hit them, they wobble. So this kind of helps reinforce that they are, in fact, breakable versus like this is not breakable and does not wobble. Yeah, you can smash those open. So Eldritch is cool. Is this is not currently implemented. Um, what do you mean by currently implemented? Um,
Hello?
oh, am I? Uh, okay, there we go. So if I put a point at agility, that will increase my agility drops. And also, if you notice, when you kill an enemy, they will drop the arrows that you put into them. So it kind of helps. Okay, it kind of makes this whole ranged character, the game, be a little bit different in that you have this kind of arrow management aspect, where I had 10 arrows and now I'm down to 7, and I'm not quite sure where I lost them. Um, so I think that's interesting. We'll see how it works. Um, I'm kind of worried that archery might be slightly overpowered, but I always find that eventually I run out of arrows, so that's kind of a balancing factor. We'll see. Crap. Yeah. So yeah, being able to recover your arrows is a pretty big deal for an archer. Um, cool. Just exploring, looking around. We have a little bedroom over here. Some poor dude got spiked in his bedroom. That stinks. Let's look over here. Oh, another bow. Not good. Keep going on. I would like to find a magic bow if possible, because those are nice, and they have some special effects stuff that I've done. Um, ba, 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 ba. So Eldritch School, have I? So the game has not. So the updates have not been published. They've certainly been implemented because I'm playing them right now, but they're not actually out yet. Uh, okay. Very cool. So yeah, so I think bows are very important. I'm kind of curious, Tyreek, what kind of bow work are you doing on Catacomb Kids? Um, oh, so Makila was saying, I have a question about the why was you at the last end of the stream when I was working on terrain in the editor. So yeah, so yesterday I did a bonus stream. So occasionally I do streams that aren't scheduled, and this is just kind of as I have time, because I am a stay-at-home father, and majority of my time is spent with my son. But when he's asleep or when he's spending time with his mother, I try to work when I can. Just pop down. Um, and I think yesterday I was just somebody had asked me just general questions about the editor, and I was just kind of showing the editor how it works. Whoa, yikes! This is a scary room. Um, yeah. So yeah, this is wow. Um, yeesh. So here, like if you have knockback, it would be very useful to push enemies into these spike areas. But yeah, no, I was previewing the editor yesterday because somebody had asked me about it. If you folks don't know, if you buy Delver, we do ship the editor right alongside the game, and you can edit all the level geometry just like I do on my streams. Um, Yeah, so yeah, Tyreek brought up the exact same point I'm worried about, where if the player has see this is a special item where it has the blue text to indicate that it is enchanted. So this one does 5 additional lightning damage, which is cool. Yeah, but Tyreek is talking about there's a balance with an archer that um, if they have like too many arrows, like it's just a cakewalk. Like for me, I could just pump arrows into guys from a distance forever, and the game just becomes trivial. Um, but if you have too few arrows, then the game is is uh, is like then playing as a ranged character is not even feasible anymore. And we're kind of back to where I was in this kind of weird broken state where people really didn't use bows that much. Um, so here, I guess I'm thankful that I have a short bow so I can really throw down some arrows quickly. It's just that the range is short, so I have to compensate by aiming high. Um, and click my arrows. And it looks like they drop. Here is a composite bow, which is the next step up from the short bow, but it does quite a bit more damage actually. Um, so the short bow does 1 to 3, and this one does 8 to 12. It has the same range. It has a slower draw speed, but it does have the highest knockback of any weapon in the game. So see if I could find some guys to push around with this. So here's an excellent composite bow, so let's just swap those out real quick. Oh yeah, here's a fine short bow of biting. So the biting means it does 4 additional damage. But it's nice though, because originally the bows didn't honor that additional damage. Or they did, but they didn't honor the damage type as a buckler. Let me go down. And I thought part of the archery experience was broken. So Tyreek is asking, are the ceiling spikes, do they have an effect or are they just visual? Yeah, they will hurt you. So we have 2 different kinds of spikes. Oh, the ceiling spikes, I assume they hurt you? I don't know. I didn't create that particular room. It should just be placing down entities that have the little damage flag enabled, so they should hurt you. Now, whether or not you actually get knocked up there is kind of hard to do. So Makilo said, all the geometry is done in the editor, not Blender, for the levels. Does the editor create geometry and then compiles into a more optimized state for the game, or is it all in real time? So I'll play this a little bit, and I'll talk to you. I'll talk about how the procedural generation works. So we hand build rooms for each area, and also the computer can build rooms programmatically, so we can have a mix. So, oh, I can't recover that arrow, so I've got to be careful about that. And these rooms are 17 by 17 in dimension, and when we generate an area, they get stitched together to form a path, and that is the level. So you can kind of see here, if you look at the map, you can see that this was a room, that was a room, that was a room. It's very similar to how Spelunky does it. So you have rooms you stitch together to make the area. So what we do is when you load up the game and you go down a level, it'll say basically in between each level, we will slap these together and create it fresh for you when you first enter the level. But after that, we save off that level into your save file, so that so we're less likely to break you if break your saves if you change the level in the future. So I'm gonna try to balance my stats out so I don't really get too much in one direction, or at least unbalanced drops. Yeah, and the new wands are kind of cool too. We've been working on those. This one is still kind of the most vanilla of all the wands. It does a decent amount of damage, and it has an okay amount of shots. And then the other wands, like for example the missile wand, we've kind of completely retooled into basically it's a low damage rapid fire wand. It does an ice wand too, so perfect timing. So this just shoots out a bunch of missiles pretty quick. But I mean, you have more charges than most, but you kind of go through them pretty quick if you're not careful about it. And also, it doesn't do a lot of damage. Yeah, so I'm already out. Then we have Ice Wand, which is kind of our stand-in for a shotgun. It does a spread attack. Also, it does stun damage, or it does slow damage, excuse me, when it hits. So that's cool. Our Storm Wand is still the same as it has been, but it has been the most differentiated of all of them since the beginning. It is basically a railgun, so it's a raycast. It pierces through enemies, all that jazz. Ouch! Where is he? So if you line up enemies, you can hit multiple with a Storm one shot, which is useful. and he's disappeared. Also, if you notice when you have stuff charged up and ready to go, your move speed does drop down pretty significantly. He's up there somewhere. Oh, there he is. Crap. I'm just gonna run. Do I have food? Yeah. Yep. So this update, we've mostly been working on visual effects, updating the wands, updating archery. We're also doing some tweaks to the UI as well, but nothing huge. I'd like to try to solve our UI issues, but it's looking like that might not actually happen in this update. Okay, so I've been playing the game, I think, long enough. Let's actually do some work. Let me try. Let me take a look at my. So I tried to. So we've been trying to do a better job about organizing ourselves. So we use GitHub for our source control, and GitHub has issues. So with the issues, I've been trying to organize um, uh, basically, pardon me, trying to organize like bugs and features and kind of creating milestones to track those features and bugs. So let me see. Um, okay, so particle system improvements and something assigned to me. Let me look at all the stuff that's assigned to me. Okay, my issues. Okay, so it looks like mostly still working on the particles and the VFX stuff. So Tyreek says the game looks fantastic. He hasn't seen it in a while. It's come a long way. Thank you. Yeah, no, we it's one of those things where like it's a long project, and I think it's important that you just keep persisting, even when things slow down, and even when it feels like you aren't making much progress. Both Chad and I have been very committed to the project, even though, like I said, rates of progress vary. But yeah, we've been working hard to make this the best game we can, um, and it's slowly getting there. Um, cool. So I want to do. So I'm on. This is. So I think the archery. So the archery stuff still needs to be. Um, the archery needs to be merged back into the main development branch. So I don't really want to. I don't want to make too many changes to that because since I don't do a lot of code changes, I've created a pull request for Chad to look at and review. And he can post comments on the review. I can respond to those comments, make code changes. And eventually, want to get this merged into develop. So I'll just pop over to the main development branch real quick and work out of that. Because I think I want to try to do some particle puffs and maybe work on some wand effects. Um, I think the visual stuff is probably the most interesting stuff for me to work on. So here's our items sheet before the archery update. So before the archery update, there was only one bow image for the 3 bows we had, and now each bow has its own image, which is cool. I think yesterday I was talking about it a little bit, but I think we were going to break out. I'd like to break out. Each item type has its own texture sheet because right now this is very much a hodgepodge of unorganized. Like there are potions. There's a key that's no longer used anymore. Um, like we had a bunch of melee stuff, and then we kind of put wands underneath that, and we put armor underneath that, and we kind of slid the bow on the side. And then for some reason, helmets have their own little column here. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. Like we have some UI elements just kind of tucked away in here, and I'd like to clean that up and make that better. Um, yeah, so Tyreek says he can empathize with that. He's felt less bad about how long Catacombs Kid has been taking because he's more confident in the fact that he's making a good thing. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Like, I think Catacomb Kids is also in early access, right? So it's a weird situation where you're working on a thing like in isolation, and you're working on a thing that's kind of a product already, and people are giving you money for it. And I think when people start giving you money for a product, the expectations radically change. Even though like there are disclaimers all over Steam saying this is early access, don't buy this if you don't like where it is right now because it might not be updated. But still, I think people expect um, a certain level of quality, and also they expect frequent updates. And for us, we got because we took a year off, that really kind of I mean it was not good of us to do that, but I needed the time. So I think talking to your community really helps alleviate some of those expectations. I think my big takeaway from Greenlight so far is just working on an early access product is as much about community management and managing expectations as it is about actually making a good thing. Which is tough because I'm not a community manager, and I'm not that's a whole new hat I've had to wear, simply because we're a two-man team. We have to just do whatever is needed at the time, and um, it was needed that for someone to talk to the community. So that's what I'm doing. So I'm just rambling now, but let me look at particle effects. Um, Particles. So here's our particle sheet as it is. So this is a combination of spell effects, hit effects. There's a snow drop there. There are some weird um, particles there. There are the falling leaves. There are gibs for the crate. There's a waterfall effect. There are flame effects here. I should probably remove one of those because I think now we have the ability to flip sprites. So I could probably clear that up. And then here is um, the stun effect. Eventually, this update too, we've also added a new status effect, which is called stun, which I want to have a proper stun. So when an enemy is stunned, they can't move or attack, and then we display this little circling star thing above their head. Um, but what I want to do, what I think would be cool, is I want to add a little like a particle puff effect, like a little like a dust effect, and I want to do this for because if you notice with the arrow when it hits the wall, it kind of puts off these blocky. Maybe I'll really quick jump over that and show that again so I can talk about it in context because I think that makes more sense. Um, so we just have a generic uh, square particle that is just the default, and it gets used a lot simply because that is the default. Um, but it's not necessarily the best. So I want to supplement the hit effect with a little particle puff, and I also want to add particle puffs to any entity that is having friction applied to them if they're over a certain speed, if that makes any sense. So when like all entities have like a physics uh, component to them, and you can knock them around, and when they slide on the ground, they slow down because of friction. That's how things work. But I want them to like have a little puff animation if they're skidding, or if the friction or the speed of the speed when friction is being applied is over a certain threshold. So let's give myself another bow again. Let's do the long bow just so you can see what that looks like. So when you shoot this into a wall, there's a little white particles shoot out. So I want to keep those there because that's kind of like, I imagine that as like debris, like maybe little bits of stone being unlodged, or whatever. But I also want to add a little dust effect to that. So I think the dust effect will be useful in many situations. So that's what I'm gonna work on. It should be pretty easy. Shouldn't be anything too crazy. So let me go back to develop, and probably I'll probably use Pixel Edit. I end up using Pixel Edit to do a lot of my animations simply because um, it's made for doing sprite-based animations, and that is nice. I have done some animations in Photoshop, you can make it work. It's just not as nice. Um, yep, okay, that did pop up. So let me file open. Actually, not open. File imports because I need to import a tiled image and particles. They are 32 by 32. Okay, that looks cool. And for example, you can create a new animation. And this animation is for this. Okay, and then over here I can play it. So this is the stun effect, which is not yet not implemented. Yep, I think that'll be cool. Uh, Kubora XHD says, "Hey, hi, um, thanks for stopping by. I'm working on the game Delver." Eldritch is cool says, "What's up with the huge door?" Um, I'm just gonna stop answering it and say it's a secret. And whether or not what the plans are for the secret is secret. Because I mean, because I've spoiled it before, and when I've spoiled it, people just get really kind of I don't know, like very dismissive about it. So that kind of bums me out. Okay, so um, frog emoji. Okay. Let me just play around with particle puffs. They should be pretty easy to do. Let me just resize my canvas, add another row. 11 tiles high. Resize, and then I guess I could cram it into there if I don't think it's gonna. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think 6 is probably okay. I can try shoving it into there, or then I can move it later if I need to. So let's not resize our canvas, and let's put it up there. Okay. So Kobura XHD says, what version of LWJGL do we use? So we're not using latest. We are using I think it's defined in our Gradle file. 099 it looks like. And again, the whole version of we don't, well we've used libgdx. We don't use LWJGL directly. Excuse me, so I misunderstood the question. So I believe libgdx does use LWJGL underneath the hood, but we don't control that directly ourselves. Okay, so let me just get the shape of this thing correct first, and then I can worry about coloring. And actually, I might leave it like that. Because if you notice, this stuff up here is grayscale, and that's because we tint it later in a shader. So the tint is just a color multiplication. So I might do this in the white, so it looks good by itself. But also, if we want to um, add color on top of that, it's something that we can certainly do. So I kind of want to have like it kind of go up to a big puff pretty quick and then fade away. Yeah, there we go. Those are the hotkeys I was trying to remember. Let me slow this down too so I can see what I'm doing. And then, so I want it to jump up in size pretty quick and then kind of fade back down. So this is my last frame. So okay, that's not correctly centered, but I can use the little offset tool to position this around. And pixel art, the offset tool is cool because you can reposition stuff, and what it does is it wraps it within the one particular tile. So that can be useful for nudging stuff around. Um, and here I'm just tweaking. I don't want, there seemed to be a little bit of a wobble. Um, I think this might be okay. Let me try adding some color to it. Let me try throwing it in the actual editor and see what we get, because that's kind of the ultimate source of truth. So let me zoom in here. Let me grab, I think this is just white. Let me just use my bucket tool and make all these white. So, um, so if we do want to multiply color with them, it does behave nicely. And then I'll add a little bit of shading to them because they are. I want them to be smoke puffs, so they are a physical thing. Sometimes, like when you do effects, and if the effect is like a magical effect and it's emitting light, things like it sounds logical when you say it, but some people mess it up. So if something emits light, it doesn't receive light. So like like a light bulb doesn't have a shadow on it itself, if that makes sense. Just do real fast and dirty. Again, trying to again another kind of lesson I've been learning on Delver is to try to be a good production artist and not get super hung up on trying to make everything like all the pixels perfect. Just try to make it work and be good enough. Because if I spend hours on a single piece, it's ultimately it's not really worth the amount of time that I've dropped into it. Because I just don't have that much free time. So I want to try to use my time as wisely as I can. So this seems to be doing something weird. So I think it's, let me, is it just, do I need to offset it? Is that what's wrong? Um, Sorry, so trying to talk and do pixel art is challenging. So I'm trying to do my best about it. Again, so this is my regular Sunday Delver game development stream. But if you have any questions about Delver, feel free to ask. If you have any questions about game development, art, just general questions like that, feel free to ask. This is just kind of a chill place to hang out while I work and talk about game dev and art, and watch me drink way too much coffee. Should that not be? Okay. So Bill the Dill says, "Hey Josh, are you aware of the Shadow Orb exploit, which lets you hold it without being chased by enemies?" Maybe. Um, I know that some folks have figured out that on the return trip to the surface with the orb, that's your ultimate goal in Delver is to grab the MacGuffin and then get back out with it. But once you have it, we spawn in enemies to make life difficult, which isn't a super great solution, which we probably should revisit in the future. But I think some players have figured out that the enemies only spawn if you're actually holding the orb or if it's in your inventory. So some folks will put the orb on the ground and just attack it, and they'll just slide it across all the levels, which is interesting. Is that what you're referring to, or is there some other exploit you're talking about? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things, right? Um, it's cool that people figured that out, and um, do we? So I guess the big question is there, do we fix it or do we embrace it, right? Sometimes when players figure out weird things, you just kind of want to lean into it and let them go with it. Um, but I guess my concern there is that basically playing soccer or football with the orb all the way across the entire level isn't exactly interesting. So I mean, again, it's one of those things that if players perceive a superior strategy, but strategy will ruin their game, they'll still do it. And even I'm guilty of this. I don't know. I've only heard of a few folks actually doing it. Um, so I'm kind of inclined to let it stand for the time being. Yeah, exactly, Tyreek. Like people will ruin their fun just because they perceive it to be the dominant strategy. And I guess to me for me personally, Delver is more. I mean, combat's okay, but I really just like seeing the weird spaces it creates and exploring those. That's my personal favorite part of Delver. Okay, and I think I'm gonna color shift. I'm gonna darken this up a little bit as it gets older. So maybe something like that, and then this should be like that. This this last one, I guess, should be the darkest because it's almost gone. And then I will throw this in the editor and see if this actually is working the way I think it is. I'm a little concerned about this quick color change might be off-putting, but we'll see. So let me file, export, image. That's what I want to do. We browse. It is particles. Yep. Replace it. Yep. Save. Yes. Okay. So let me fire up the Delver editor and see if I can get this in a system and make it look good. So how's everybody's Sunday going? Thank you for joining me. What are you folks either doing or working on? I'm curious to know. So in the Delver editor, you can hit the B button, the Bravo or B button, or you can go View and toggle simulation, and that will basically things that like the particle editor will actually run, so you can see what it's going to look like. So let's play around with this. So that's the nice thing about Pixel Edit too, is it gives you the indices of these particles. So stuff like this is easier. So I need to go 18 to 23 is what I want. So it would be nice maybe if the editor had a like for normal sprites, you have a pretty decent picker. It allows you to pick the sprite sheet and the index, but particles not the same. So let's just see what that looks like. Yeah, that's something, right? Um, uh, okay, let me add some upward velocity on that so it looks a little bit better. Particle, not random velocity, I want the particle velocity, so maybe 0.1. So there's still some weirdness going on. So let me look at, so the random velocity, let me set that to 0. Let's zero out all the random stuff so I can kind of account for what's happening. Um, particles were, so also no particle spread. I want them to all spawn at the exact same spot. Um, cool. So it looks like, yeah, looks like folks are getting work done, which is cool. Let's spawn only one particle at a time. Let's see what that looks like. I think I have to toggle the simulation on and off to actually make it do stuff. Maybe the lifetime isn't long enough for it to actually do stuff. Let me make the lifetime really long. Let's see what that does. Hmm. Oh yeah, Johan Hansen. He's, if I recall, you're doing some retro FPS thing as well. I'm not quite entirely sure what the project is, but it looks very cool. And looks like Tyreek is working on bug fixes and optimization stuff. Yeah, that's always good to do. And it's always a good practice to like not always put optimization off to the very end. Try to do it um, a little as you go. Like I'm against over optimizing because if you optimize stuff that never gets hit, there's no need for that, right? Um, but like if you wait for things to become a really awful problem, like you've gotten yourself kind of into a hole. So you have to find this balance um, of optimizing at an appropriate time. So that's kind of correct there. Let me see. Um, again, playing around with their z velocity to make them float up, and they seem to be misbehaving. Uh, yeah, so they're not. There's so I turned them on floating, and they're still not rising. What am I doing wrong? Spawn distance, persist, repeat. Uh, they are dynamic. That's true. No rotation on those guys. They float. How about no collision? I think that might be it. Yeah, there we go. Now they're doing crazy stuff. I guess they were spawning in on top of themselves and like messing up with collision. So let's try to crank some of those numbers back down to more uh, reasonable values. Okay, that's looking okay-ish. So I want it to live shorter. So let's have it. I also want to play around with that velocity. I think that velocity is still too much. So have that. Um, so then some of the more interesting stuff with particle systems is like the randomness. So let me put a little bit of spread into this so it doesn't always spawn at the exact same spot. But I want them all to spawn in the same plane, so no Z randomness. Maybe like the spawn interval 0.5, so they spawn more frequently. Okay. And I also think I want to play with the random lifetime. So maybe up to 50% of their life could be random. I might need to again dial back that velocity, have it again, and then up the lifetime a little bit. Hmm. Did I do that wrong? No, that should be okay. Um, okay, that's looking a little bit better. Yeah, so again with this, then we could, so I think this would be okay for the arrow effect. Maybe make them live a touch longer, and then maybe also up the random lifetime a tiny bit or more. Um, Also, maybe if they need a little bit of velocity and random velocity, also wouldn't be the worst thing. Um, just on all axes and see what that looks like. Okay, that's a cool effect, but not quite what I had in mind. So I think I think these particle puffs are probably going to work for what I want them to do. Um, so yeah, I'm kind of happy. Let me see how well they play with being tinted. Um, so Johan just linked to his game, Outworld. Let me just since I don't mind sharing other people's work. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yeah, that looks lovely. I really love these kind of just this lo-fi aesthetic where you're, ooh, that's beautiful. Oh my goodness. I love the fog and these lights, and it looks like there's a flashlight effect going on with that character. Man, that's gorgeous stuff. Um, so it looks like you can find his stuff at outworld-game.com. So yeah, check out Johan's stuff. This is really beautiful. Ooh, look at this. Looks like a Blender file. Yeah. I just love this. That's some really beautiful artwork you have going on there too. Um, uh, yeah. Well, thank you for. I didn't know I was an inspiration for you. That's very kind of you to say. Yeah. Uh, Thank you. Yeah. No, I think your work is very cool, and I wish you the best of luck. Dr. Keagle's asking kind of things from Half-Life 2. I guess that's a question for Johan because I'm not a good person to answer that. So let's. Oh, so I think let's try tinting these particles maybe. We're kind of using, I think we're going to try to switch over to have magic be represented by purple because I like purple. But I think for enable you in order to tint particles, I think you need to actually set them to full bright. Yeah, there we go. So for one reason or another, our particle system will not won't actually honor the tint of a particle unless the full bright flag is set to true, which I have stumbled across in the past. So for modders, that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, definitely. So for Johan's game, the volumetric lighting is super gorgeous. That really sets the mood. Okay, so I think these puffs are going to work. Um, yeah, let me just go ahead and check those in while we're like because I could like I keep saying they're going to work. So let's just commit them. So particles.ping added a little puff effect, and I think I do like the way that they are kind of getting darker. Um, uh, Again, I guess I always fall into this trap of like just tweaking and fiddling with stuff. But yeah, so yeah, I think that would be a really cool like effect for the arrow. Though I might want to. I'm trying to decide, do I need more frames to actually smooth that out, um, or is it just not living long enough? That's also another consideration. So if they live 50, yeah, that actually looks better. So maybe it's just that they were kind of popping in and popping out too fast. Yeah, I think this could be a useful effect. Um, though I might want to actually have them get larger faster. So I might, let me just tweak, let me play with that since I have this. Um, so, so basically I want, so let me grab my tile tool and just drop that there. And then I want like a better, let me play around with that. So we make this just a touch larger because I think that's kind of a really big jump. Not that big jumps are bad per se, but um, so let's see. Um, yeah, so Johannes, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, no problem, man. I'm always excited to see people working on interesting stuff. I'm always happy to share. There's also another developer who comes in here sometimes named Chris, and they're working on a game called Sky Noon, which is all very cool as well. And they were recently greenlit. So yep, lots of cool, talented folks. Lots of really young, talented folks that make me super jealous and make me feel like I've wasted a lot of my life. But oh well, no biggie. I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at. You know, I'm in a good place in life right now. Um, that's not to say things aren't stressful, but I'm a happy guy. Yep. So yeah, Johan is saying he feels like the Delver art style is what Doom and other FPSs would have looked like if the SNES had power to do FPSs. That cute and colorful kind of. That's precisely the aesthetic I have in mind when I make art for Delver. Is I literally think like if the Super Nintendo could render textured quads, like what would those games have would have looked like? And that's kind of where I start with all my art for Delver. So it's colorful and it's I mean it's cute, but I've been editing, I've been duplicating tiles. Oh no. Yeah. So oh darn it. So yeah. So that has been my direct inspiration is trying to because again I then when we started working on Delver there were a lot of like grim realistic games and I was kind of getting like fatigue of the grimdark. So that's why I wanted something that was colorful and bright. Like we have crazy like sometimes sometimes our like we use like colored lights like a little too much, but I think it's fine. Like sometimes it's like rainbow vomit, but I love it. Like um, a lot of games just are very like they either really lean hard into the whole like a teal and orange like you see, or um, I don't know. It's just I think having a kind of cutesy aesthetic also lets us get away with like the very dark nature of roguelikes where you're just murdering stuff all the time. Um, So again, maybe that also helps me sleep a little bit better. So it looks like I need to, okay, just trying to clean this stuff up a bit. Try to make sure that there's not, that they're not jumping around. I think this might be doing that though. Okay, let me export this and see what it looks like. Broccoli Wizard says Delver is cool, man. I played it a bit and liked what I saw. Thank you very kindly for liking what we're doing here. Um, Again, it's one of those things where it's a passion project, um, because like we are taking our time and we are trying to make this as good as we can. So you kind of lose objectivity, like I'm really close to it, and it's I mean, like you have to believe what you're doing is correct. When other people like feel that, it's really rewarding. Because I mean, Delbert, like we're trying to make it like a nice, I wouldn't say super casual, but we're trying to make it fit somewhere between an FPS and a roguelike. And that, like, I worry sometimes that the roguelike people, it's not roguelike enough for them, and for the FPS people, it's not FPS-y enough for them. Um, so we kind of run that risk of like, um, I guess. Um so I don't know if it's updated. Let me just. Can I? Let me just copy this to JSON. So I just worry that we like by trying to split the difference, we're like appealing to neither. But I think it's worth trying. I think for a lot of folks, we're trying to be like babies first roguelike. I guess babies is a bad way to say it, but we're trying to be like a light, easy to get into, not stat heavy roguelike. Um, so Tystev is asking, what is this particle effect for? So I'm creating a general dust particle effect. So like when the arrows hit the wall, I want to go. I want the particle to come up and look like a little dust cloud has been kicked up, in addition to the little sparks that come off. I also want that when any entity, whether it be an enemy, the player, an item, that when it is moving fast and it's on the ground and friction is being applied, that it will kick up dust particles as it slides. I'm also trying to keep it generic enough to be used as an interesting just effect. So with the color, I was thinking of actually attaching it also to the magic arrows to make it look a little bit more interesting when they're being used. So it's just kind of a general purpose uh, effect. So what I'm going to do is, since I copied that JSON, I actually want to just drop this in um, so I can just easily recreate it. So in the assets folder, there is an entities.dat. And this is a JSON file that has all the definitions for most of the entities you ever encounter in the game. So like there are crates and barrels and like the skull, the hanging chains, and the candles and stuff, and all the items are defined here. So um, I just want to go ahead and add that particle emitter I created to this so I can just quickly get back to it and tweak it. And I think we have, because these entity lists are broken up into sections, so I just want to add it to the appropriate section. I think I'm just searching for particle right now until I find where we put the other ones, because I think we do have just a basic particle system. Particles, yeah, so this is a particles group, and I just want to put this one in here. So after lava fountain, I'm just gonna paste it in there. But I need to name it so I can reference it. So something like that, and let's just call this puff particle or puff effect. And I should have captured everything that I had um, going on in there. Let me make sure I got, so make sure like make sure like if you don't format the JSON correctly, um, Delver won't know how to load the entities and it will bail. So you have to make sure that you know like commas and like you have to match your brackets. You have to match like all that stuff. So that should be good. Let me fire up the editor and see if we can get back to where we were. So Johan said that he really liked the aesthetic, and he ended up buying both the Steam and Android versions, which is that means a lot to me. Like I really appreciate your support. So I am currently a stay-at-home father, and so that means so I was a software engineer at Microsoft, working on the Visual Studio project or product, excuse me. And I'm of two minds of that. Like um, I really enjoyed working for Microsoft, but it was very difficult, and the way they build software is just didn't really like the way that I build software. The way they build software didn't really. I don't know. I just didn't really agree with it very well. I mean, some folks like their style, but it didn't really sit really well with me. I like a little more structured style. Yeah, and I think this particle effect is working great. So when people buy the game that does directly support me and help me bring in a small income, I'm very fortunate that my wife is able to support us right now. Um, but any additional support I get is wonderfully appreciated. Yeah, so I think I like that. I think I like the fact that um, there's a it doesn't start large, the tiny little puff, but then it gets big, and then it does have that nice taper. Um, I think this will be useful. Cool. Yeah, I like that. Let me just commit that. Enough talking. And so added particle effect. Commit and sync. Um, yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that's at. Yeah, so Johan is saying he can relate to that huge companies move slower in development and your contributions are usually focused to a small area of the product. Yeah, that is certainly the case. Yeah, it's just whether you want to be a big fish in a little pond or a little fish in a big pond, right? Um, and that's an interesting way of looking at it. So I work both for Microsoft and for Lexmark, and you know they're both actually very good employers, and I enjoyed my time with them. But I've done the large corporate enterprise software development for 6 years, and I think I want a change. So I'm gonna try doing the independent thing as long as I can while I'm raising my son, and hopefully I get some traction on that. But if not, you know, I mean, life goes on. Like I'll find something to do. I'll make my way. I'm just trying to enjoy where I'm at while I'm there. Okay, so I guess it's time for me to touch code again. Uh, hopefully Chad doesn't kill me. I'm gonna see if I can add the. Let me just make sure that I can spawn this effect in real quick and things work well. So I'm gonna see if I can play around with adding the slide effect to the entities. And I think I know how to do that. I've been playing around with the code base a little bit more, so I'm becoming more familiar with it. Um, entity. Friction. Um, So this is where we apply friction. And I think this is where I would want to actually do my little effect. Um, let me just throw a breakpoint in here and see when this gets hit. Because this says if it's on the floor, um, or it's on another entity and it's not floating. Do we do another on the floor check? That's yeah. So yeah, we guess we want to differentiate between floors and entities, and then it slows it down by some. Um, so let me just see how this is, where this is being hit. Let me just debug this a little bit. I assume it's probably going to instantly get hit because there are lots of entities. Oh, wrong. Desktop. And this is again why I delete my saves a lot, because as I move, because this is developed and it doesn't have the definitions for the new archery stuff, the save file is corrupted, so we have to be really careful about that. So luckily, your save files going forward with the new archery stuff should be fine, because it's just adding functionality to the existing stuff, and we have defaults if it's not there, but the other way around does not work, because uh, this is not being hit. Interesting. So if I toss something, does it get hit? Wait, I didn't. Did I debug or did I launch it? There we go. Yeah, it's getting hit all the time now. Okay, cool. Okay. So this isn't going to be super helpful. Let's see. Let's try to be more uh, strategic with how we are. Um, so what if we? So ultimately, I only want to add this effect if it's over a certain speed. So I'll just throw some stuff in real quick, and then I might have to optimize it later to make sure it works correctly. But let's say we have a vector 2. Call it S is a new vector 2. The X component is the speed in the X. The Y component is the speed in the Y. And then I just want to say if S dot magnitude side length. Oh man, yeah. So this is one of those weird things too, where different libraries call. So vectors have a concept of a magnitude, which is the length of a vector. Um, but a lot of libraries call it different things, and this is kind of confusing. I think it's length. Let me try length. That seems right. So if length is greater than, say 1.0, then we'll do something. So do something. This should be what we want. And let me just drop some code in there so I can actually hit the breakpoint. So int I equals, or int jj equals 0. The breakpoint there, and then let's debug that. Because if my hunch is correct, this should happen when entities are sliding on the floor over a certain velocity. And if that's the case, then that's when I want to play the smoke effect. And then from there, it becomes just kind of tweaking and finding the right speed, because you don't want everything to always be kicking up dust, because then everybody looks super speedy and looks silly. So you're trying to find a good threshold. So if I throw the meat, that is not enough. So me walking around is also not enough. So if I throw, so you can throw junk. So if I have if I have this tankard, which is junk, the tankard actually literally does nothing. It's just flare to make the world feel more real. But with junk, you can wind it up and throw it, and it actually does a little bit of damage. Somebody was joking last Sunday about trying to do a junk only run, which I think probably not possible, but still entertaining. So let me. So this seems to be not doing what I think it's doing. Now let me try having that, and then maybe revisiting what I think it's doing. Okay, is this enough? No. Okay, so now I'm beginning to think, is this even doing what I think it's doing? Okay, so that definitely hit. And let me just look at okay, so I guess greater than 0 would probably be, what is S dot? Yeah, let me, floats entity speed, okay, I'll call this, give them better names. This is speed vector. This is entity speed is equal to speed vector dot len. And then if entity speed is greater than 0, because that's really the more important thing, right? Then we'll do something. So let's try that and see if it behaves like as we expect. So again, I'm worried because I know in some languages, like if you ask for the length of a vector, it returns, I believe, the cardinality of a vector. So a vector 2 is of length 2, a vector 3 is of length 3, etc. So hopefully that's not what it's doing. And if I recall correctly, too, the more recent versions of libgdx also have the API has been cleaned up, and it's really nice. So this is a little bit older version of GDX, and it's there's just been a lot of quality of life issues, or a lot of quality of life improvements that have been made to this framework. So the entity speed is greater than 0. Oh, so this is a common thing you run into with floats, is because if you look at this, this is 7616441 times 10 to the minus 5. So it's 0.000007. So that's not super helpful. Because with floats you have to be careful about stuff like that. That's Let me just correct that real quick. I can't remember. I think Java does have a math. Usually, what you do is um, you do a comparison with something that's called epsilon, which is generally the smallest meaningful floating point value. So basically, if you're greater than math dot epsilon, then you're like, or if you're less than math dot epsilon, we just consider you to be 0. I can't remember if Java has that built in, or if I just need to just copy that value from somewhere. I'll just make one up. So if math, or I should have math in here. Math ABS, so the absolute value of speed is greater than 001. So this should hopefully basically do the epsilon. So my epsilon here is 1.0 times 10 to the negative third. So hopefully this should capture what we want it to capture. Okay, cool. So I can move. Um, Interesting. Oh, yep. So that broke. That's good. So let me look at my code. So yeah. So the entity speed. Um, yeah. So it's oh yeah. So yeah. This is perfect. So um, I guess this is where I'd want to actually start doing my little particle effect. Um, uh, okay, cool. So um, there are a couple ways I could do this. So I could just literally or I could basically instantiate a particle system like the one I created here earlier and attach it to the item and then remove it afterwards. Or I simply could just, I think typically if we're doing this programmatically, we basically, instead of creating a particle system, we just grab particles from a pool, which I think is probably a better way to do things. Um, so, okay, so this is cool. And a couple things too. I guess with I don't need this math.abs because again, if you take the magnitude of a vector, it's always going to be positive. Um, so what I want to do is maybe this is super rough, but maybe let's just call a uh, on slide method, and we're going to pass in the entity speed. And then maybe we'll let each entity decide what it wants to do when it's sliding. This might be useful. I don't know. I'm just kind of freestyling here. And in the entity class, I want to create an on slide. So let me just go down here. And this is going to be a public void on slide. And it's going to take a float of slide speed. And I do want to provide a definition for it. And then this also, by doing this, by putting this slide logic inside this public method, all the things that subclass entity can potentially override it and do special things. And that could be interesting. I don't necessarily foresee that happening, but we could do some crazy stuff with that maybe. Um, so So there we go. So we're calling it on slide. And then for the default behavior, I just want it to kick up particles. Um, so I know we do this. We do this with the magic missile stuff. So let's look at spells and magic missile. Let's look for particle. Effect. Magic missile projectile. Let's look at that. Yeah, so here I think this is so here what we're doing is um, we're asking we have these so we have a cache pool of particles. So if you're not familiar with what pools are, um, so pools are a collection of objects that when you want one, you ask a pool for, say, give me a resource that's available, and it will hand it back to you. You generally do this in managed languages, such as C# or Java, in this case Java, because um, with managed languages, there's a thing called a garbage collector, which determines when to clean up memory for you. And sometimes and with each language, you have varying amounts of control over the garbage collector. So it's better actually sometimes it's better in managed languages not to actually always create new instances of objects and let them be collected by the garbage collector. Sometimes it's better to have a big pool of things like particles, since we're creating those and destroying those pretty frequently. We just have a big pool of generic particles, and then we grab one, we say it's active, we do some stuff with it, and then when it dies, we we say it's inactive, and the pool takes care of the rest. So what we want is this chunk here. So I'm just going to grab this. We want to do that for our entity in the on slide. We want to so I think the get particle takes in a position and a velocity and some other stuff. So it takes an XYZ, which is position, XV, YV, and ZV, which is velocity, a texture, a color, and a Fulbright. So I think what I also want to do is I want to look at that definition I pasted in entities to see to see the particle start text. I think the particle should honor all these properties as well. So we'll use a mix of both to get what we want. So so this is okay. We want for now we can just leave the velocity at 0. I think that's okay. I mean, it won't be particularly interesting, but at least it gets us going. This is the texture, which is, I think in our case, we want texture 18. And it is Fulbright. Let's just go ahead and hard code that to true. So this gives us a particle which we've called P. And then now we can just look at some of these properties. We just, sorry, split vertically. And then I can go over here and grab the properties I want to set. So Deathblade711 says, "Hi Joshua, I finally got to one of your streams. I've supported Delver since day one. Can't wait to see what's in store for it." So yeah, thank you for your support. Wow, day one is a very long time ago, and I appreciate you supporting me and enjoying the game. Yeah, we're just pushing hard, trying to get this done. I really want to have this game in a good completed state by next year, which is still, it's a pretty wide window, but again, like times always kind of shift and slip because this is a passion project. Right now, we're more concerned with quality than trying to push something out and get started on the next thing. Because I mean, I guess if you are doing it for money, then that's the more important thing, is to get it out in a decent shape and try to make money off of it. But we're more worried about making it good. Okay, so the particle color. So I need a color C equals new color. Again, all this new stuff I'm throwing around, I will probably go in and either refactor it, or if it's not a big deal, I just will leave it. But yeah, so new color, and the particle color is this right here, which is only, okay, cool. So it is there's no green component, so that's cool. So the red is that, the green is 0, and the blue is that. So it's kind of copying. This should be the purple color we had, but does it want 4 parameters? Float. What color? Is it not float? Is it double? What is this constructor expecting? That's probably a better thing. RGBA. Okay, I can do that. So what it wants is also the alpha value, which is 1.0, because it's yep. Let's make sure these are floats, because that's what the method expects. Hang on a second. I need to. need to take a quick break. So let me just do this. Text equals time equals today. Let's say 1:35. And I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Um, ba, 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 ba. So Dr. Kegel is asking, are the entities deserialized to? Can't you copy, assign, and code the values from that object? So where? Uh, yeah, you could. Um, but I don't want to create a particle emitter. I want to create just the particles and handle the emission rates myself. Um, yeah, there might be a better way to do this, but this is just kind of our current practice on how to do that. And Tyreek says he likes how the flame torches look like happy little foxtails. Yeah, that's an older version of the flame, but and it's less foxtaily now, but it's still kind of there. Yeah, and again, I always err on the side of making it look more stylized than actual realistic. Um, so so this will create a new particle every tick, which is also not what we want. So let me just take a look at. So start text is 18, spawn count 1. So let me look at some of the other properties. So this. Let me see if it has some of these properties I expect it to. So p dot start. So start text doesn't. P dot animation dot. Yeah, so I think it's start equals 18. P dot animation dot end equals 23. I think that's the correct property there. So yep, yep. So p dot. I don't want them to collide, so check collision equals false. I think that's the property you want. Again, I haven't messed with this in a while, so I'm kind of just trying to figure out things from our API here. So the lifetime is something. It's so the random lifetime is 10. So 10 times random float plus the base lifetime, which is 50. Okay, that should do that. Start scale 1, end scale 1. I don't want any roll or rotation, so I'll get rid of that. And actually for color, let's not go crazy. Let's just go over here and do a color dot white. So this will just be the same color as the whatever is in the sheet. Um, that's looking okay. Now I just need to limit how quickly they spawn, because right now if they spawn every frame, that will be pretty chaotic. So again, I'm just going to reference how we are doing it in the magic missile projectile, because um, uh, again, I just want to follow our existing conventions, unless they're really wrong, but right now I think it's fine. So Voom is saying, Joshua, are there any big gameplay changes planned for the future? Um, Depends what you consider big. Like for this next coming update, hopefully, which will land in November, we're greatly improving the archery experience, and we're also adding wand differentiation. Um, so that changes gameplay quite a bit. Is that the scale you're talking about, or are you talking about like much larger? Like so what are you really asking me for? So I think here we just have a trail timer. I think that's what we're using to let me pull it over here. Why can't I? There we go. Okay, so entity here. Um, okay. Okay, so there's a couple things here. We need to have a trail timer. Blah, 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 blah. This might be a little too messy, and I might end up having to change how this works, but let's just do that. So um, again, right now I'm just kind of hacking things in to see if I even like the effect, you know. I think that should be a float, right? Yeah. Let me just lift that. Okay, so trail timer. Um, so Voom says those changes sound sick. What about any new weapon types or enemies? I would like to do that stuff eventually. I would like to do a small content bump for actual 1.0 release, but I can't really commit to anything quite yet. But I'm more committed to actually getting the game in a good polished state and releasing it. And I mean, we could be in this loop where we're just adding content forever. So I don't want to do that. I want to get it to where it's a good, tight experience. I want to get workshop support enabled, and then let you folks go crazy with adding all the stuff that you think that we should have added. Yeah, it looks like we need to have a delta parameter here. So let's just do wherever that's called from, which should be on come on, delta. There we go. And then back down here, and then in this function definition, I need a type, so float would be good. So this basically subtracts trail timer. If it's greater than 0, minus that. And then when it is time to emit a particle, we also need to reset the timer. So I think on our entities here, the timer was, the interval is 5, and there's no random interval, so it's just 5. And then go back up here to where I have it defined, so it just starts off correctly as well. That should be right there, is 5. And again, playing with these random things also is a good way to make it look interesting. Um, again, you can tweak this stuff forever. Okay. So this should, on slide, create a puff of white. Um, so let's see how this actually works. Let's see, make sure I haven't broken the world and it doesn't look insane. So in theory, when I throw my tankard on the ground, it should just kick up little dust trails. Or I get something bad. Probably like a null reference. What am I not checking? So let me just put a breakpoint here and see what's actually going on. Okay, and let's throw our tankard again. Luckily we hit a breakpoint. Okay, so is it that we don't get a particle? Is that the issue? Let's take a, let's step forward. Okay, so the particle is fine. Is it that the animation is not defined? Yeah, so the animation is null, so that is the issue. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to access a property of a null object, and that will throw an exception because there's no property to access. So I think I need to actually create an animation. So create a new one of those, and then just animation dot start equals 18. Let me also let me see how the particle. Let me just look at the particle emitter itself. Maybe that's a better way to go about this and see how they actually are assigning the particle properties. So move over to the group. Okay. Oh, so there's just a call for p.play animation. So that's what I should be doing. I'm not actually worrying about instantiating all that junk. So p.play animation. I need to start at 18. I need to end at 23. And the lifetime is not defined yet, so I need to p.lifetime. And I need to make sure that I move this up above. Actually, just put this below the lifetime so that I get the correct lifetime. Okay, let's try that. That should work. Again, I apologize. I normally don't touch code in Delver, so this is probably not as smooth as it ought to be. I'm sure watching Chad work is probably amazing, but I will stumble through this and I'll just show you my process of figuring stuff out because that's also a handy skill. Whoa, that was cool. Not quite what I expected, but so it's obvious that the Z offset is incorrect, but it is kind of doing what we would want it to do. Let's fix that offset. Oh, hey Chris, thank you for stopping by. I'm just working on some more particle effect stuff. Okay, so for some odd reason here, there's some, so I need to just, I don't want to do any kind of crazy offsets. I want this to actually spawn directly um, where the entity is going to be, and maybe have the scale. I don't like changing the scale on pixel art stuff, but we'll see. If it's awful, I will fix it. Yeah, Chris. Yeah, no worries. I mean, if you can drop by, that's cool. If you can't, I understand that. You're already living in the future, and it's Monday morning for you, so you have real life things to do. Okay, so it's still not spawning the particles in the correct spot. And it doesn't look like it's actually honoring the scale either. That's weird. Let me quit. Let me undo that. Is it just a p dot scale, I think? Make that 0.5. I'm curious why it's still, did I need that? Minus 0.5. I still need to do that. Is because it also depends where it considers the origin to be. Sometimes folks like the origin to be in the center of an object, and some folks like the origin to be like, say, at the bottom of an object. So I need to kind of play around with that too. So let's give that a shot. So Donkey Toll says Delver is the first game he bought on Steam, or they bought on Steam, excuse me. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool to know. Um, yeah, I'm trying to think of like the first game you bought on Steam. That's an interesting question to ask folks, I suppose. I honestly can't remember. I think I initially created a Steam account because I think in order to play Counter-Strike back in the day, you had to have one. Yeah, that's looking kind of what I was wanting. That's cool. So I think I want to spawn just a little bit above the ground. Not a lot. So what I'm gonna do, I think I want to raise it by whatever the largest dimension of this is. So it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So 14. Yeah, so let's do some math. So I think I need to add back 14 over 32 divided by 2. I'm pretty confident this is what I need to add back to make it be in the correct spot, I believe. We'll see. Uh, let me just throw it over my other screen so I can just. Because ideally the puffs would be like at the largest, they would still sit on top of the ground. So Chris says his was the orange box. Donkey Toll says he's a console gamer. He saw a video on this game and just had to buy it. Unfortunately his PC could run it. Yeah, so that is one nice thing about Delver is because we are a cross-plat game. We play our game is available on PC, Mac, Linux, and Android. We still want the game to be performant on Android. So I think as a nice side effect is that pretty much any PC can play Delver. You don't need a lot of horsepower to throw at it for it to work. Yeah, it's a little high. Okay, now I'm just gonna start getting into weird magic numbers and just see what I can do. So let me just simplify that. So 5 plus 0.21875. So this is, oh sorry, minus 0.5. That would be good to do your math correctly, Joshua. Okay, so this is actually a negative, so it ends up being a minus 0.2 8125. And that still might be, I think it's still a little low. So let's just try 2.5. Or sorry, or that might be too high. I don't know. Again, I'll fiddle with the numbers until I get something that I like. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of tweaking this stuff is just fiddling with numbers until it looks right. And there are many ways to do that. Like that's the nice thing about like Unity, for example, is during play mode you can actually like scrub values to find stuff you like. So here I just kind of just play around. Okay, that's too high. So I think I should have gone the other way. I think I should have made them lower. Let's try -3. So it looks like, yeah, Donkey Toll says, yeah, okay, so yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know. For like, I went through a weird arc as far as gaming. Like when I was younger, I was a hardcore PC gamer, and then around the time of college, I actually switched over to console almost exclusively. Like I think it was around the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era is when I kind of converted to a console gamer. Uh, and then I think my last console I had was my Xbox 360. And then after that, I kind of switched back to PC gaming. I couldn't tell you precisely why, but that was kind of my arc. Um, okay. Again, I'm just messing around trying to make these puffs look correct. It's hard to tell because it's also, I don't think the ground is not perfectly flat either. Maybe lower just a little bit more. But I guess a nice side effect of this should be that, for example, if I hit an enemy with a high knockback weapon, hopefully the enemy should be moving fast enough to actually kick up little dust particles, which I think would be cool to communicate just kind of the weight of how hard you hit them. Hopefully that should work. Again, I just keep lowering this thing, don't I? Okay, it looks like, so I try to keep my streams around 2 hours in length, and we're coming up almost on the 2 hour mark. I got about 5-6 minutes left on my stream before I go do family time stuff because I like that, and this you know, part of my weekend is the fact that my wife and I are together in the same spot. So if there are any dying questions you have or anything you want to know, please let me know. Or if there's anything you'd like to see me do, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to just kind of fiddle around with this until I guess I get tired of it. Let me just see if the mace thing I'm thinking of will actually work. So let me get a melee weapon with mace. This has lots of so it might be overdone. I think anything will throw up dust. So let me add in a monster. Let's add in the goblin because they can take a hit. Yes. Oh, so yeah, he's so yeah, that's cool. So he's actually leaving a little dust trail. I don't think he should because he's not really moving all that fast. Yeah, but I think that will be cool. So the other part of that too is trying to find out what's a good threshold of speed to actually have stuff give off dust particles. Um, and again, I must have to just ballpark it, and maybe maybe 0.2. Again, these are just kind of a lot of magic numbers. Um, so Voom is asking about the mobile version. Again, the mobile version is lagging behind quite a bit. Um, again, I've talked about this on previous streams as well, but the issue is um, the framework that we use, libgdx, is how we get our Android support, and newer versions of libgdx have different requirements for the OpenGL like versioning and shader versioning, and we're worried that so basically we will break a chunk of Android devices by upgrading, and we already have taken a small upgrade. So we're in this conundrum where we don't want to, for people who bought the game, we don't want to break the game for them, but we also don't want to be stuck on an old version that we'd like to upgrade to new stuff. So we're kind of in a weird pickle with the. So Chris is asking, can the particle have dithering or something? Yeah, yeah, it can. And also the particle can have alpha. I just I can't do it through the editor. I have to do it either in code or in the JSON. So let me see if I have. So let me add a monster. Let me add that that goblin again, because basically when I smack him, he should leave little particles. Hopefully. No. So that must be too high of a. That must be too high. Let me lower that down. Yeah, again, I'll probably play with the scale of the thing too, in addition to um, uh, um, the alpha. Yeah, and again, it's again trying to add these little polishes. Try to make it again. This helps you guys add some physicality, like when you're knocking enemies around or if you throw stuff. These little things are nice little touches, I think. So again, let me go back to my little tankard and see what it looks like when I throw it. Is that thing? Yeah. Not always. So even 0.1 still may be too high. Let me add another poor goblin and smack him around. A little. Let me lower that threshold some more. Yeah, thank you for the kind words about the effect. Hopefully it's good. So I want it to be at a sweet spot where fast moving stuff does it, but normal moving stuff doesn't. So I need to figure out. So I think that if you throw stuff, it probably ought. And let me just set a breakpoint and just see what the values are that I'm actually getting. That's probably a smarter way to work. So the entity speed here is, so that's beating it by quite a way. So I'm curious why. Curious why that doesn't always seem to be doing nice. So Johan is saying, how do I feel about pixel art mixed with high-res UI elements? He's giving an example of Dungeon of the Endless. I mean, it's one of those things. Like, some folks are really, really like pure, like when it comes to like pixel art, like they want it um, to always um, be so Johan is referring to multi-resolution, where the scale of the pixels is not the same across the board. And generally, if you don't know what you're doing, this looks terrible. Um, like you'll have some pixels are twice as big as others, or like four times, and it just looks bad. Um, but sometimes it looks good. I mean, it's one of those things. Like there's no like I don't think there's an ultimate truth to that. I think some folks do mix pixel resolutions very well. I think it's harder to do. Um, so I mean, I would recommend people new to pixel art try to keep a consistent pixel scale. Um, but yeah, I mean, the people who are really good at it, um, you know, it looks good. So again, it's kind of a non-answer. Sorry. So that looks good. Um, so um, um, so Dr. Kegel says he finds the programming streams more interesting as a streamer does not mind backseat programming. Um, Interesting. So is that Dr. Kegel, is that in response to my bot asking for advice? Yeah. Interesting. So you're liking the programming a little bit more, huh? That's cool. That's good to know. Um, yeah. So Dungeon of the Endless is not only is it pixel art, it also has non-pixel art elements, and I think it mixes them very well. Um, yeah. So Tyreek is asking what Delver would look like rendered at a low resolution, and I would love to have that option. I think it would look great in like maybe 480p. Um, uh, but some of the UI stuff is just not correctly scaled to support that. But I would love to see it like that as well. Um, yeah, Johan is saying good rant, good rant. I guess that's a rant. I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm a pretty easygoing guy. Like I don't like having these really hard set rules, especially like if you're making stuff that looks cool, looks good, do it. I'm, there's no reason to get bent out of shape over like strict like rules and laws, like especially like in like making art. Like I don't ever believe there are like things you should always do or never do, right? When people start talking that way, it makes me a, a little I don't know, I'd say a little upset. But I guess I don't really get that upset. Um, oh, so Dr. Keel is saying, um, okay, so I guess there are folks who do like code streams, so that's cool. So I think I need to add a little bit of upward velocity on this. I think this guy did have some. Um, uh, Particle. There's a random velocity and okay. So let me just take care of that stuff. I'm just here. This is just basically um, this is just kind of the old school way of doing random is where the float gives you value 1 to 0 or 0 to 1. You multiply it by the range you want, and then you add the offset. So if you wanted a range of 0 to 10 or 0 to 9, you would multiply it by 10. If you wanted 0 to 10, you would multiply by 11, add 1. Maybe I don't know. But yeah, no, maybe I need to rethink that. But so this is just me translating these random ranges into actual numbers. So the range is that, and I think the only velocity I had on the particles was in the z, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So let me just copy this, paste it 3 times, and then fix it. So I need x velocity, y velocity, and z velocity. And then these, don't add anything to those. And to this one we add 0.025. Let's see what that looks like. That might be a little too aggressive, and I can dial it back. Yeah, so Johan says he asks because he's seen some artists expressing really strong feelings against mixed resolutions. Yeah, and I get that. There are some people who are vehemently opposed to mixed resolutions. I mean, personally, that's way too much velocity. Personally, I just find it's easier to have a nice, consistent aesthetic if you don't. But again, I'm not professing any ultimate truths or anything. I'm just saying what works for me. Okay. Let's see if I can get this puff effect working right, and then I think it's just about time for me to call it a day. Yeah, I think that's working okay. Yeah, Tariq is saying consistency. Yep, I think consistency is also a good thing. I think for Delver, I try to keep all the pixel resolutions at the same, and then occasionally I make them smaller or larger. I think all the way down to maybe 75%, and maybe all the way up to 150%. But it's kind of, again, I try to do it in areas where you don't necessarily notice it. And then, for example, like the weapon sprites themselves are at a higher pixel density than the surrounding environment, but they're all the same. So I think within themselves they're consistent. Maybe I need to up the rate with that. Let me just change this this rate. Trail timer equals it's a float, so 3.5. Trail timer equals say 3, and I think I want this thing to immediately start kicking out particles. This may be also why it's looking a little weird. Trail timer equals 0. Because basically, I think I want the first frame that it can slide for it to actually send up a puff. Okay, I think having them spawn a little bit more frequently looks nice. Yeah, that's getting to a place where I'm liking it. We also, I think, if I remember correctly, we have a monster under the debug called Fastman. Ah! And what is he doing? Why is Fastman changing his? What is he doing? Okay, that's cool. I guess if monsters are moving that fast, it's okay for them to kick up dust. That looks kind of cool. Yeah, I think I'm liking where this is at. Yeah. I think also Slowman probably. Yeah, so I like the fact that he had those little particles when he slowed down. Let me see if I can just give him a small love tap and not kill him. And see if I can see how he slides. Yeah, I think that's looking about right. I guess the real proof in the pudding is what it actually looks like when I'm playing a real game, rather than these little contrived scenarios. So I'll play a little bit and then I'll end the stream because I'm already going over. Uh, so let me just try to wrap up on this. Just play a little bit and talk about Delver and see how this new effect looks. Cool.
Who was that?
Yeah, ones are always good. Grab that. Oh, there's somebody. I know she will jump. So let me see if I can get her. Yeah, cool. So yeah, this works great. So she has little puff particles when she jumps at me, which is what I want. Blast my way through him. I need to fix the particle effect color on that, because you notice when it gets the hit, it still drops green. It shouldn't drop green, it should drop purple. That's just they're both caught on crates, which is interesting. Yeah, the knockback mixing Cinder little puffs, I think that's cool. Cool. Kirby is saying if Fastman is a debug thing, he should have blue hair. Oh goodness. It is purely a debug thing. Yeah, this should have knockback on it, so we'll see how that looks in game, like an actual use case. I still like I think the next update after the November update, I really want to do some love on the dungeons and make sure that they really look nice. So I'm not sure is the effect too much? Should I not be doing it as often as I am? Or what do you guys think about this little dust particle effect for sliding? I mean, I guess a lot of what I'm doing is intentionally making this happen, so I guess it's okay. So Tyreek is asking, is stealth a possible tactic? And no, stealth is not a tactic because the way the enemies are implemented, they have no concept of facing. So they're always facing the player. So unfortunately, it's kind of hard to be stealthy in that situation. And that's just, unfortunately, that was just an early design decision that we made, and we're sticking with it because I don't personally feel like adding animations for like doubling all the animations for the enemies. I think it's okay. But it would be cool maybe in a future project to do something to that effect, but no stealth. So Dr. Kegel's saying he may have missed this, but why did I choose an enemy texture instead of pixels, depending on the vexel of hits? I'm not quite sure what that means. I think he's asking maybe why did I do a frame animation rather than just having it scale. A couple reasons. With the frame animation, I certainly have more control over the animation, but also the lerp animation only goes. It has a start scale and an end scale, and with the little puffs, they start small, get big, and go small again, and that's just something I can't do with the way the particles are currently implemented. Maybe I should even have them even emit faster than 3. Like every other would probably be okay. Let's see what that looks like. So you can try out running the enemies. Yeah, I think you generally do move faster than the enemies. So I mean that's I don't know if that's stealthy versus like non-confrontational. Yeah. So yeah, Tyreek. Yeah, definitely the enemies. They always face you. Yeah. So yeah, I think again I like. Cool. Okay, I can tweak. I can tweak this all day, and I'll probably tweak it some more. But I think I need to call my stream done. Let me look at chat real quick, address their questions, and then I'll let you guys get back to your normal Sundays. So you could use the dead sprite with some Z's coming up. Yeah, I want to. Part of this update is going to be also improving some of the status effects. So like for stunned, I want to have the stars above their head. For poisoned, I probably want them to have emit like little green bubbles or something. So when the enemy is under a particular status effect, it is more clear that they are. Um, yeah, I'm not super concerned with stealth for Delver. Maybe on a future project. I know. I think Chad does have a fork or a different version of the Delver engine that does have the concept of facing. But I think again I want to like I don't want to I want to be very careful on the decisions that we make to add the most amount of value without adding a whole lot of work. So I'm trying to be efficient and try to get this in a good spot to have it wrapped up. So I think those are all my questions. Um, Again, I want to thank everybody for coming and spending some time with me on their Sundays and watching me work on my game Delver. I appreciate that. It means a lot to me. Um, I stream every Sunday at noon Pacific time, so that's my regular development stream. So you can pop in and watch me do that. Occasionally, I will do bonus streams, and this is just as I have time. I will just block out some time and stream. The best way to find out about those is to follow me either here on Twitch or to follow me on Twitter, and I will generally send out a quick tweet saying, "Hey, I'm going live," and then boom, I'm live for the bonus streams. I also want to thank Tyreek. Tyreek actually hosted me today on his channel, which is really, really rad of him. I certainly appreciate that. If you guys are interested in like quality pixel art and game development and roguelike stuff, you should definitely give Tyreek a follow and check out what he's working on. Catacomb Kids is awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you again, and I will see you next Sunday.